So this is for week 3, Wednesday, quarter 3, math 7 on functions and the different ways of doing functions. So for the first one, you have an equation, correct? This equation, as you know, is linear, which means it's going to be in a straight line like that, right? So first thing you want to do, there is nothing given to you except for this, which means you can graph it. Do you understand? You can graph it. There's nothing else that you have here. So if I want to graph this, to graph this equation, you have y equals mx plus b. Remember how to graph a line? Your b is where you start. Your m is going to be your slope. Do you remember that? Do you remember it? Yeah. This is your equation. Y equals mx plus b. What is your b here? C. What is your slope? What's the number in front of the x? What is the number that's in front of that x? Yeah, but what is that number? There's a number in front of this x. It's not 0x. What is it? What times x equals x? 1 times x equals x. So what is your slope? Slope is always in the form of a fraction. It's 1 over 1. So where do you start with this graph? That's not what I said. Where do you start? You start with a b. What is your b? B. B is going to be always on which axis? Right. You go up 3 or down 3? Up. Got it. What is your slope? If we're going to graph a line, really. What's your slope? Which means you go up 1 and you go over 1. That's the equation in your line. Yeah, you did. We've done much more complicated things than this. We've graphed this many, many times. Maybe you should spend a little bit more time reviewing the videos rather than looking at TikTok. Now that I know this, next time when you go upstairs, I want your iPad and I want your cell phone downstairs. Do you understand? Do I make myself clear to you? The word rule to find the output, add 3 to the input. So remember, your slope is 1. Your y-intercept is plus 3. So when you put the x in here, which is the input, nothing changes. 1 times x is just x. So the only thing that's going to be changed is you add 3. When you go ahead and do a chart of values, it's best to do your chart of values so that you have different numbers. As in, we start as the -2, -1, 0, 1, 2. Do you see how positive and negative numbers? So when you have this, you're going to plug this into the equation. Move your hair out of the way. F of -2. Write it down. Is equal to -2 plus 3. F of -1. F of 0. F of 1. F of 2. Write down the answers, please. When you do f of 2, do you see there's just x right there? So -2 is x. -2 plus 3, your y value or your output is what? So what's your ordered pair? What's your point? What is your point? It's x comma y. What's your x value? What's your y? You better have that. Moving on to the next one. F of -1 is -1 plus 3. F of 0 is 0 plus 3. F of 1 is 1 plus 3. F of 2 is 2 plus 3. Give me the output or the y value. Do that on your. What's your answer? -1 plus 3 is 2. Maybe you should stop talking and start working. 1 plus 3 is 4. 2 plus 3 is 5. So when you look for your coordinate, what's the second point? What's the third point? What's the fourth point? What's the fifth point? Do you see how I got those points? No, fucking else. This is a fucking waste of my time. Next question. Copy it down. You know what? No, I'm not gonna do this. You can watch the video when you're done. Next question. Looking at this equation right here. Notice how they do not give you any information here, right? Different than the last one, but they do give you a graph. So this is where you'll start. Looking at the graph right here, is it a positive slope or a negative slope? Positive slope means you go up the mountain. Negative slope means you go down the mountain. So which one is it? Positive or negative? So is it positive or negative? Let's go ahead and get the right answer next time because you have a quiz on this tomorrow. This is very disappointing. So your slope is going to be a negative number. Now, when you look at the slope here, you'll look very closely. Do you see that the slope is going down 1 over 1, down 1 over 1, down 1 over 1, down 1 over 1, down 1 over 1? Do you see that? So what that means is your slope is you're going down 1 over 1. So -1 over 1, which is just a -1 for slope. Do you see that? Your B is the starting point. It's on the y-axis. Where does this graph cross on the y-axis? Point to it on your paper. You should have pointed at this point right here. This point is at 1. So B equals 1. Now that you have B and now that you have M, you know your equation, which is y equals, which is f of x, is equal to mx plus b. If you have M and you have B, then you have your equation. Do I have my M over here from this graph? -1. Do I have B from this graph? It's +1. So my equation here is going to be y, which is f of x, is equal to 1x, or -1, because it's a negative slope. So -1x plus 1. That's your equation. F of x equals -1x plus 1. Forgot to go over this one. The domain and range for this equation, if you look at this graph, domain is left to right. It's always been -infinity to +infinity. Range is up and down. -infinity to +infinity. Now that I have this equation here, to find the output, what is the word rule? You will just say, that's the input, correct? Output, which is y, is equal to a negative input, which is x, plus 1. Do you see that? You just read it. F of x is output, which is y, equals negative x, negative input, plus 1. Do you see that? Chart of values. Create your chart. Here's my x, here's my y. What are the numbers we generally use? No, look at the pattern here. -2, -1, 0, 1, 2. Do you see that? We're going to take these numbers and plug it over here for the y. Your equation is right here. Do you see the equation? F of x. F of x, you're going to replace the -2 equals negative x is a -2 plus 1. Do you see that? Which is a positive 1 plus 1, which is a 3. So my first point is -2, positive 3. My second point is a -1 for x. So f of -1 is equal to, do you see how this is a negative x? So that means it's a -1 plus 1. Do you see that? Which is a positive 1 plus 1, which is a 2. Your second point is a -1, comma 2. Now what I want you to do is you're going to do the rest of this. You're going to do f of 0, f of 1, f of 2. Now pause it right here. You need to catch up. So go back and do. Okay, so let's take a look at the next question. The next question here, and you need to have some actual. No, this is not important. What's important is that you get this done within a timely manner. So your handwriting does not matter at all. Now you're going to go to the next one. Okay, 3 cents. If I want 3 cents, I'm going to color in 3 cents. For question number 3, do you see how this one actually gives you a graph or give you a chart? Right? This is what's given, correct? Whereas before, what was given is the first one. Hold on. It gave you an equation. That's number 1, right? Number 2. What was given was a graph, correct? Yeah. Number 3. What was given is a chart, correct? Yeah. So now with this chart, you need to find the equation. You need to give me the words of how this function is going to be. You need to go ahead and give me the points and then draw the graph, correct? Well, if it's giving you the chart, this one right here, which is the ordered pair, should be easy. Because you know that f of x is equal to y, correct? First one is 7, 3. Do you see that? Second one is -2, -6. Next one, 1, -3. Do you see that? Yeah. 3, -1, -4, -8, 0, -4, correct? Well, if I have this part right here, so this is number 1, this is what's given. Second one that's really easy to figure out is this right here, that's number 2, right? Which is the ordered pairs. Once you have the ordered pairs, you can do number 3, which is just graphing, and you just graph it according to the points, correct? So 7, 3, 1, 2, really small. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You know that right there is 7. So now that you know that's 7, you know exactly what to do. Like you have an idea of how long each of the sides are. So 3, you go up 3. That's the first point. Then you have -2. This is garbage. Garbage. Hold on. -2, -6. So -2, -6 is down here. 1, -3 is here. 3, -1 is right there. Your last point is -4. -8 is down here. 0, -4 is right here. Well, hold on a second. 0, -4 is down here. Your point doesn't have to be exactly the same, but it needs to be in one direction. Do you see that? Positive slope or negative slope? Positive slope because you're going up the hill, right? So then after number 3, you go to number 4. Okay. You can find, hold on, you can find the equations of this. The equation of this is y equals mx plus b. What are the 2 things you need to know to complete the equation? What do we do here? I just told you before. 2 things you need to complete the equation. M and what else? B. You know your slope is positive, correct? So that's something, but I still need to have an actual number. What is a slope formula? No, that's a equation of a line. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Do you remember that? That's a slope formula. What does the x1, y1 represent? What does the x2, y2 represent? You need to have 2 points, correct? x1, y1 is first point, x2, y2 is a second point. Do you have 2 points that's given to you here? Do you have some points given to you? You have a lot of points. Which 2 point here looks like it's the easiest one to use? As in, it's not going to mess you up. Pick 2. Pick 2 points. I think that's pretty good because it's small numbers, right? You pick this one, that's fine. Those are positive numbers. We can use those numbers. Now, you are going to do the y top minus bottom. Yes? Yeah. Y comes first. Make sure you don't mess that up. So 3 minus -3. Do you see the double negative right there? But I didn't put a double -3. I put a single -3. It's 3 minus -3. Do you see that? Then here, 7 minus 1. Because that's the x value. Correct? Yeah. This right here is 3 plus 3, which is a 6. Which is a 6. What's 6 divided by 6? Your slope is a 1, correct? Yeah. Now I need to find b. So y equals 1x plus b, correct? Yeah. Which point do you want to use? Do you want to use the top yellow one or the bottom yellow one? Your choice. Top yellow. Top yellow. Y is 3. What is your x? 7. Correct? Yeah. What's your b? At this point, you should be able to solve it in your head. -4. Good. Now that you have a slope, you have b. Your equation is y equals positive 1x minus 4, correct? Yeah. And the way you're going to describe this is, remember, y is output equals input times 1 is not going to change, correct? If that was a 2, you put 2 times the input, okay? Minus what? 4. That's it. You graphed it. You got the points. You got the chart. You got the equation. Anything with a linear equation, the domain is always negative infinity to positive infinity. Range is negative infinity to positive infinity. Do you understand? Yeah. On the